Created by Fundog Studios, The Forever Winter is a horror survival extraction game where you play as a lonely scab trying to make it by in the world where you've been forgotten. Fundog Studios is actually a recently formed indie studio, with it being fully employed and staffed by various AAA veteran game devs. Notice how I didn't mention this game being a shooter, by the way. That's not to say shooting isn't a core part of the game though, but rather that this game prioritizes you strategically picking your battles and using your environment to keep you hidden. To put it in other words, you act as a rat in the battlefield, lurking in the shadows, only shooting when you're shot at, and most importantly, being an absolute loot goblin.
Yummer, yummer.
Understandably, you might wonder what makes this game special compared to, say, Helldivers or Tarkov. Well, that comes in the form of the game's in-depth mechanics and atmosphere. To say the game's atmosphere is eerie, immersive, and downright beautiful are actually understatements. You can partly thank Unreal Engine 5 for that, the engine that runs the iconic Funny Kids game. But you can also thank the devs who modded and molded each detailed and highly unique environment in this game. Plus, all the sound design and AI when it works, hugely add to this experience, whether it be the distant radio chatter, gunfire between factions, or the enemy drones hovering over you. It keeps you on your toes, as it does such a good job of convincing you that an enemy could be around the corner waiting for you at a moment's notice. From the mech trenches, where you navigate every nook and cranny for a handful of loot, to Elephant Coliseum, where you can see the true scale of the global war. The game is insanely good at making the environment so open and variable with its several extraction points and routes you can take, but also extremely claustrophobic when you're hugging a dark corner hoping to be invisible to the enemy factions. The Forever Winter takes place in a global-wide war where neither side is powerful enough to win, a constant tug of war between various factions. As scavengers, you're equivalent to simply just being rats on the battlefield. To the opposing global powers, you mean nothing and contribute nothing besides your dead body being biofuel for the cyborgs or machines. And that's the exact point of Forever Winter. It's a very bleak and depressing setting, but despite it all, they still try and live life day by day, hoping for the war to end so they can live back on the surface instead of suffocating in the slums. And that's really the only thing keeping you and other scabs going. Hope. Hope for a better tomorrow. That by maybe getting one more barrel of water, or getting a few extra resources, you can live to see another day and the end of the war. You're just an ordinary citizen turned scavenger who's using every opportunity to play their cards right to both get on the faction's good sides and compromising them from the inside out. Even though you're still useful to them as biofuel, you can still serve a purpose by doing the most dangerous loot runs and missions, since if you die, they lose nothing. It's a win-win for them regardless of how cruel it is. When you first boot up the game, you'll be given a tutorial mission to explain the game's mechanics and officially set up your base. After doing that, you'll meet the game's primary quest giver, Slade.
Welcome to the innards. Look, we need more water, plain and simple. Tell you what, if you can wreck in any region for us and report back, maybe that will help us find some water. I also dip into my personal stash of water if you do this. Welcome back, and well done. Sounds rough out there. We're up against it, that's for sure. But you came back as promised. Here's your reward.
Now I say primary quest giver because after you do 3 or so tutorial missions, you'll be given access to the other faction quest givers. And if you're lucky and get enough water, you'll also get access to the faction vendors later on. Now the hub is the main area where you can accept quests, stock up before missions, and manage your hub's inventory, or base customization if you have enough money to spend on that.
I bought a property in
The innards.
and what they do for you is they give you the property.
Hey, yo, chill the fuck out, yo. You sitting there playing with the
Akin to Helldivers 2 or Warframe, the hub has all the different menu tabs and options located physically throughout the world, but it also gives you the option to access them through the menu itself. On top of that, you can also trade with other scab vendors for various supplies such as ammo, meds, or even recruits. Seriously though, do not take recruits because they have like the worst AI. If you walk around the hub for a little bit, you might notice that a lot of the vendors and features are either locked behind credits or require a certain amount of water to access. Water essentially acts as the base currency for what items you're allowed to access and which vendors you're allowed to trade with. Of course, you can gain credits from selling various items and junk, or use them to buy base upgrades or better loot, but the water countdown is an added mechanic that adds onto the list of things you have to juggle with while living in a wasteland. To go a bit more into the water mechanic, there's actually a real-time countdown in your hub that tells you how much water you have left, which, if it reaches 0, you'll experience water death. Being the unique core mechanic of the game, water death is essentially a softcore reset of all your inventory and credits, but your characters keep their skills just to make it a little bit less punishing.
Walt, please just hear me out, please!
To address the elephant in the room, water death has been the center of the game's drama for a while now, with the casual players wanting the system to be modified or completely removed, with the hardcore players wanting it to stay as is or even be more unforgiving. Thankfully, the devs have been very transparent on the players' criticisms and are constantly trying to evolve the water system to where it's implemented best. Now, regarding my opinion on the water mechanic, I do like the idea of there being a countdown of some sorts and the whole idea of water death, because I think it enforces the idea that you're just a random guy trying to survive day by day. However, with myself being a casual player, I think it's a bit unfair to have the countdown tick down constantly even when you're not playing. Now, currently the characters do have some niches, so the old man is better at healing, Scav Girl is better at sprinting, Masked Man and Shaman are great at having bigger carry capacities and sprinting speeds, with Bagman being the tankiest, slowest, and able to carry the most. Finally, Gunhead is just basically a tank, and you're able to shoot at anything that moves. But the catch is that you're giving up your ability to be healed and revived. On top of these skill trees is also the prestige system, character to have more base health and carry capacity. When you're leveling up these characters in order to reach prestige, you can also try out some of the specific skills and their skill tree. But whenever you prestige, the skills reset, so there's not really a rush to max out any skills until you're at a high enough level or a level you're comfortable with. However, you can have some fun maxing out a character like Gunhead, who can strap a AA-12 shotgun to one-tap any enemies he comes across. Now, besides the character variety, you also have access to different backpacks or rigs that serve different functions. The equipment rigs have more open spaces, which allow for larger items such as water, explosives, lockboxes, or tactical equipment, such as jump packs, scanners, flashlights, or IEDs. Going back to the skill tree for a second, only certain characters can use certain rigs. So if you want to be a bit more speedy but carry more loot, then you're only going to be able to use rigs with more loot containers like the Gunrunner rig or Pack Mule rig. However, with the skill tree, certain characters like the Old Man and Scav Girl can have skill sets that allow them to use the equipment rigs for more open spaces. Essentially, these rigs allow you to do more loot and water focused runs, or sabotage and elimination runs where you bring in every single explosive possible to troll the enemy faction. Now, I'll explain a bit more about the hub's vendors and upgrades later, but for now, let's take a look at the core gameplay loop and what type of missions you can go on.
I will get right to the point. A hijacked medium mech is out there. We call it the Rat King. You'll know when you see it. Almost everything it defeats usually drops or has remnants of residue on it. If you collect us enough of this residue, we will have two things. First, proof that a hijacked medium mech has a chance to bring Scavs hope. Second, a new residue to investigate to see why it occurs and what use it may have in the future. Come back when you have collected enough residue. Amazing. This is amazing. I get people started on looking into this residue right away. Here are upgrades for your rigs. They should help you carry more items during your travels. Thank you.
Now, when choosing a mission or map, you have a variety of types to choose from. Want to start out with more of a small scale battle and easy route? Try Scorched Enclave. Want a bit more of a challenge and the feeling of a widespread war? Try Elephant Molosseum. If you're all about sneaking around and being within an inch of your life, try Mech Trenches or Underground Cemetery. The point I'm trying to make is that you have a lot of different maps that do allow you to try different playstyles, whether based around stealth, guns a-blazing, or tricking the enemy factions. With these missions, you can go from simple water and loot runs to methodically planned out assassinations or hostage rescues. And the fact that what you bring changes how you fight and how you survive in these missions is a really cool mechanic, and it's so awesome to play around that. Say you want to bring in a heavy hitter like an anti-tank weapon. Well, you'll deal with the medium and other heavy units more easily, but all the noise you're making now catches the attention of every single enemy across the map. On the opposite side of the spectrum, if you bring in silenced pistols or small firearms, you'll be able to remain stealthy and out of sight, but if a grabber or hunter killer are on your trail, let's just say you better run. In addition, the game gives you several ways to deal with enemies in really unique ways. Let's say you're on your way to the extraction zone, and there's a horde of enemies just blocking the way. You can go about this in a few ways. The most obvious way would be to simply mow them all down with your HMG or AK. With some or most guns being able to one-shot a lot of enemies if you aim for the head. Alternatively, you can also try and stealth past them, never firing a single bullet. But it will be a 50-50 if they see you or not, depending on the route you take or just the AI jank. A third option would be to fire in the air away from the extraction zone, loop around the enemy as they go towards what they heard, and you're home free. On top of that, if you're lucky, you can do that or bait them towards you and direct them towards another enemy faction so they start killing each other.
That's incoming!
And if all these options don't work, you can just simply turn around and head to another extraction zone. This game allows you to tinker with several playstyles and opens up so many interesting ways to deal with enemy units on the fly, much like a scab trying to survive a war zone would do. Also, I forgot to mention, depending on the threat level of your weapon, the enemies will actually know when you're pointing at them. And to clarify that, I don't mean that they're going to have wall hacks and see you, although that can happen just because of the AI jank. What I mean is that the game has a really cool mechanic where if you have weak weapons and have low tier loot, they'll just simply see you and ignore you. As you're just simply not a threat to them. After all, you're just playing as a side character in the game. The world exists outside of your presence, not because of you. To me, the game just has some really insane concepts that I can't wait to see how the devs expand on them and improve over time.
It seems like you think yourself competent, or at least that's what I've been told. Tell you what, if you manage to destroy some Europans out there for us and come back alive, I'll give you something to replace that garbage you call a weapon. You can, of course, purchase one from our vendor. Oh, I'll also throw in some water. Do this for us, and we can open up all sorts of job opportunities for you.
Time to carve him up.
I hear our foes have been thinned. Well done. Your payment has been delivered. Remember to customize your weaponry and combat loadout. Come back when you're ready for more work.
In terms of quests, there's quite a variety to choose from. There's your standard loot runs where you gather as much junk as you can until you're over encumbered like a Fallout game. There's missions where you can gather intel, sabotage enemy equipment, or retrieve something personal for a faction, like Slade with a stolen alcohol. You can even choose to rescue hostages or even assassinate dangerous and high-level targets. Now you may be thinking, as a scav, why would I go out and 1v1 someone when my entire life is surviving in the shadows? And to that, I say that you have to remember that you're being hired by various factions involved in the war. They're hiring you to do the dirty work, because then if you die, they don't lose anything, and if you somehow manage to come out on top and assassinate the target, it's still a win-win for them. As outlandish as they can be, I believe that these types of quests do enforce the idea that you're just a nobody, and that these enemy factions see you nothing nothing more than just cannon fodder. The point I'm trying to make here is that the game does such a good job of making the world exist around you instead of just because of you, since a lot of these quests you're doing are more of a drop in a bucket than causing a huge shift in the war. And what's nice about these quests is even if you fail them, you're given unlimited chances to redo them, except for the fact that when you retry a mission, your past rig attachments, loot, and weapons are left where you last died. However, if you fail to get the loot in the next run, the loot is lost forever. This is a system I both really love and hate. I really like the idea because it does add to the urgency and stakes of the game, since you can't just magically hold onto your loot every time you die, and it does make every mission count. Plus, you have to choose what you go in with into a mission because you might completely lose it all, so it adds a lot of strategy into the gameplay loop. However, I do feel that the system currently is a bit punishing, as there just might be bad RNG or AI or just weird collision physics going on that will actually ruin your run. Now, the idea does play into the game's vision, but I do feel like it's almost a bit cruel for it to just be a gameplay mechanic where I think there might be better ways to implement that type of idea. Moving on from this, I want to talk a bit about how the junk you find actually can serve a purpose in the game and just in the hub as well. Outside of healing items that exist, a lot of the scrap and junk food that you find can actually be used in the hub or in the mission to help you. For example, if you find a pack of SIGs lying around, you can use them to increase your accuracy at the cost of health. There's also chocolate bars that increase your stamina and health or alcohol and speed at the cost of accuracy. It's the fact that a lot of these items cannot only be sold for money, but it's the fact that you can use them to help craft special ammo for your weapons, like the cryo ammo. Later on, when you get enough water and credits, you can actually upgrade your hub to have a ammo crafter, which can be used to craft cryo ammo. Now, cryo ammo is special in that every bullet stuns the enemy and does insane damage to them, and in order to craft this ammo, you need a certain amount of cigarettes or alcohol to do the job. But on the battlefield, your character can't just use all these items whenever. All of these aspects, from the maps to the enemies to the junk that you can just pick up, makes the world feel so much more alive than a lot of other games currently out there.
Scav! We need someone with your particular set of skills. Intel suggests that a high-ranking Eurasian officer has been taken prisoner by Europa. They're not just holding him for ransom or leverage. No! These European pigs are gonna try and extract every last secret from his head. I want you to get into the infirmary undetected, unplug that life support system, let nature take its course. The fewer questions asked about what happened, the better.
Remember, we keep what we kill.
Impressive work. The officer won't be sharing any more secrets with Europa's interrogators now. With this taken care of, Eurasia has one less thing to worry about. Keep moving like you have been. Your services are still required elsewhere.
Now, on top of this, you have a faction system that gives you access to better equipment, guns, and even extraction zones. The main factions in this game are the Scavengers, Eurasians, Eruskins, and Europans. When you get enough water in the first place, you're given access to various faction stores where you can buy various items for exuberant prices. However, if you're in a good spot with these factions, you can actually get a huge discount on their store items. If you want to strengthen your relationship with the faction, you want to start by selling them various items or doing quests for them. If you get to a high enough level with these factions, they'll give you access to extra extraction zones that could actually help you out significantly on your next mission. And yes, while it is kind of like a Fallout game where you can have the highest rank with each faction and there's no consequences, there still actually are consequences. Let's say if you help the Eurasians in a quest and shoot European and Eurasian units. Well, then your affinity with Europa and Eurasia actually goes down depending on how many of their units you killed, making their store prices either back to normal or completely overpriced because they think you're a sellout like KSI. Now, of course, you have your light and medium type enemies, such as cyborg soldiers or armor units, which aren't super special, but they have some special animations and can be definitely terrifying in their own right. But where the game truly shines is with its heavy units. The most notable heavy unit is not only on the cover art, but it's also the one that the community is completely down bad for. The Mother Courage enemy has the purpose of killing and stacking survivors in a pile that will later be used for biofuel. Mother Courage is probably one of the most bizarre enemies in the game.
Heavy movement ahead. Let's stick to the corners.
But it does oddly fit enough into the game's aesthetic as the enemy factions are trying to lure you to something familiar, hence the big tall goth woman. She only appears on the maps during the night, and when she's there, it feels like the enemy is taunting you with Mother Courage's appearance, as one couldn't possibly expect this thing to step on you with 1,000 pounds of crushing force. Just make sure to ignore that one random kill animation that stunlocked the entire Discord community for 1 week. Hunter killers or grabbers are another heavy enemy unit who will be deployed once you've stolen enough high tier loot. And don't worry, that doesn't sound inconvenient enough. They know exactly where you are and will stop at nothing to kill you. Finally, you have more personalized enemies like Tyyk, who's not only one of the highest ranked enemies, but he also has special kill animations and has a lot more lore around him. For instance, when he finds a random scav, instead of just outright killing them for biofuel like Mother Courage, he actually drops them into a body bag where it will slowly kill them over time, acting as a personal source of biofuel for himself. Speaking of lore, if you want to learn more about the game's story and factions, the devs recently added a new NPC, Lordos, to talk to. You'll find him sitting in a room filled with blood bags next to the water countdown timer, where he's stabbed with several bayonets, where he asks you to give you 5 packs of cigarettes for more information. Least addicted smoker, by the way.
I'm not supposed to say anything about this, but let's just say there are people within our organization who think Eurasia is becoming too strong. If you can take out some of the soldiers in one battle and get back here alive, I'll make sure it pays off.
Maybe eating a bullet would be better. Taking fire.
You did it! You took down enough Eurasian fighters. I've just received word that our higher-ups are impressed with your skills. This could be a game changer for us.
Now, I don't want to spend too much time on the AI, but I felt it deserved its own section since it's part of the game that will make or break the experience for many people, including myself. Now, I'm about to have a very controversial opinion, which is that the AI isn't really great, but it's also not that bad. Actually being serious for a moment though, there's actually a lot of good ideas with the AI that mostly works. For example, the main one being the AI won't shoot you or will simply ignore you if you just walk by without any valuable loot, or if you haven't killed any of the faction soldiers. The idea is pretty cool in concept, and it does work from time to time. The issue is that since the game is in early access currently, the AI will just shoot you regardless if you're in a 5 meter or 1,000 meter radius. And I'm not going to use that as some excuse to criticize the game, but it's more of just a way to bring attention to it, since how the AI works is a very big aspect of the gameplay loop. To give credit where credit is due though, the AI has been improved over the past 6 months tremendously. With how aggressive the AI is and how easily it's alerted, being either better communicated or tweaked. And I think with the game's whole premise being about stealthing around the battlefield, it makes sense that the AI has to be one of the most polished aspects of the game, eventually for it to carry out that vision. What makes sense is when you're sitting in a dark corner watching an unaware patrol pass by. What doesn't make sense is when you're having your foot behind the corner with the rest of your body in the open and the patrol being completely unaware about that. Once again, this isn't an attack on the game itself or the developers, but it's more of a way to bring attention to the issue and just general praise for how well the AI is developed currently. This whole section right here is more of just an attention grabber towards how the AI functions in the game currently, in the hope that the devs continue to improve and develop the AI and make it unlike any other game out there currently. If you look at a lot of the more popular games currently on Steam, you'll find that the biggest multiplayer games are usually extraction shooters, battle royales, or strategy hero shooters. And while this game is an extraction shooter to some extent, I believe a lot of the game elements used to make it something truly special. Like for instance, Helldivers 2 is a great game. It's an extraction shooter where you face the enemy head on and blow everything up. Forever Winter is kind of the inverse of that, where you pick your battles with the limited resources you have, but the catch is that your main focus is stealthily getting around and staying alive. And I feel like a lot of games haven't tried to stick to that vision before. and a lot of games do copy each other over the long run. But I think in Forever Winter's case, it's sticking to the vision of being unforgiving, gritty, and bleak to present a sick apocalyptic setting where you aren't the main character. And that might not be for everyone, and that's okay. And as much as I've been glazing this game the entire time, I don't necessarily love the gameplay mechanics, but I can still really appreciate the uniqueness and variety of the stealth-based mechanics that the game focuses on. And that's more why I made this video, not necessarily because I just wanted to glaze the game entirely, but to bring attention to an amazing niche game that has a lot of love and care put behind it. And that I hope not only gets the support it deserves, but a player base that also loves it just as much. The fact that this game exists for $30 and provides a terrifying and downright adrenaline rush of an experience for a horror extraction shooter, in contrast to the plethora of unfinished boring AAA games, is not only a testament to the indie game scene, but also to the devs' unrivaled creative vision and their passion. The point I'm trying to make is that this game is very much a passion project, so I highly recommend that you try it out for yourself if you're interested. And I'm not paid by Fundog Studios or anything, by the way. I just generally do enjoy the game, and the game presents a lot of interesting mechanics, game ideas, and styles that I just could not support it in some way. And if you